Hi there, it's Marla at Narrate. To wrap up the God Has a Name series, Adam connects with 3 people and asks them the question of why do they follow Jesus. In the 10 o'clock gathering, he visits with Rob Cameron, Janelle Williams, and Zach Bushilla. Enjoy!
So what we're going to do this morning, if you're a guest list, we're really thrilled that you're here and you're catching us on a unique weekend. Let me just kind of give some context here. One of the privileges that I have, one of the real humbling aspects of my role is that I'm constantly meeting people like these guys and many of yourselves, those of you who are so vested in this place in so many different ways. And it's real humbling. It's humbling to serve next to somebody on Sunday who's volunteering while you're getting paid. And it's also pretty awesome, and I think part of what makes this place. And so one of the perpetual questions in my head over the last several years, almost subconscious, I think, has just been like, I wonder why they follow Jesus. Like, I would love to know their answer to that question. On the one hand, embracing the reality that we all follow Jesus for different reasons, and that's not to suggest that there isn't orthodoxy. I'm not trying to suggest that at all, but backgrounds and just where we're at in life and circumstances all kind of converge to cause us to connect with Jesus in different ways and for different reasons. And so as we kind of were exploring this idea, I put it in front of the creative team, and they came up with this idea of, well, let's grab a few people from each of the several teams that we have around here, and let's just create these conversations and see where that goes. And so last service, we grabbed 3 people from the creative team, had this conversation. These 3, many of you will recognize them because they're on the stage with the band quite a lot. And the next gathering, we're going to have people who serve some of our large group teachers on Sunday mornings and some of our student leaders. So why don't we start? That shirt is just, I asked him this morning, like, that had nothing to do with the fact they played Michigan yesterday, right? And he's like, oh, no, it had nothing to do with that whatsoever. Some of you were throwing up in your mouth, others of you were very excited. Let's just start by kind of swing the room real quick, so to speak, and just, because part of what's humbling to me is just the background of what you guys do, and, you know, you're going to work on Monday morning while working really hard on Sunday. So why don't you just introduce yourself and share a little bit, just for a second, what you do to feed your family, so to speak. So we'll start with you, Janelle.
Okay, so I'm Janelle Williams. During the week, I am an attorney, and I work from home for a consulting firm in Billings.
I'm Zach Bushilla, and I'm an electrician. That's what I do to feed my family, crawl in attics and crawl spaces.
And drive around town and wave at people.
Wave
you have the friendliest wave in town.
Yeah. I'm Rob Cameron, and we usually go to Costco to feed our family.
Yeah.
Because it's a big family. No, I'm an attorney too, and I was in private practice for a lot of years. And then this last April, I got the opportunity to be appointed as Deputy Attorney General for Montana.
You're kind of a big deal.
Oh, yeah.
So one of the other things is we were talking about, like, how do we do chairs, and do we want to haul chairs and all that? And we thought, you know, it's its own kind of temperament test to go, like, everybody bring their own camp chair. So, Rob, I'm dying to know why that chair?
Well,
that's awesome.
Well, it's got to be comfortable.
Yeah, there you go.
This is what I'd take camping.
Weighs as much as my sofa, but
yeah, I don't take this one backpack.
Oh yeah, I'm sure you don't. Zach, yours kind of says something.
Yeah. Well, it was funny when you asked me. I kind of laughed inside because if you know my family, we don't really sit when we camp.
No, that's true.
So I was like trying to figure out how to bring like a rock to sit on. But I was out climbing this week and actually took a seat on my crash pad and was like, wow, this actually is probably my most favorite thing to sit on, and good things are happening when it's out. So
awesome. Yeah. We passed the new climbing route on Mount Helena yesterday. Nice work.
Yeah, pretty sweet.
I didn't climb it. I just stared at it with trepidation, but nice work. And
I borrowed this from Roy.
Okay. So, Rob, why do you follow Jesus? How do you process that?
I guess 3 stages that I've gone through. Number 1, growing up in the church, Mom and Dad always had my brother and sister and I at church pretty regularly, and it became the thing to do, the habit, the expectation. Then when I got older, I got into I watched a lot of Star Trek, so I was very Spock-oriented and analyzed the question of faith logically and analytically, and ultimately, read all the books on faith and evidences and all that stuff to get to the point where I believed that it was extremely likely that the actual resurrection, physical bodily resurrection, was a historical event. But that didn't really make the commitment real to me. I still viewed Jesus as sort of my imaginary friend out there. And then in more recent years, I just started taking to heart what Jesus said about looking at my brothers and sisters and seeing him. And instead of looking in the ether somewhere for Jesus, I started seeing Jesus in the eyes of my brothers and sisters. And that was the paradigm shift for me.
Wow.
That changed everything.
Wow. Huh. Janelle? And part of, so we haven't practiced this, like, let me just say that. These aren't like, we've had brief conversations about what we'll talk about, but part of it too, just to kind of alleviate any kind of tension in that regard, is part of my interest here is to demonstrate that we are a part of this community together, and yet we come at it from different angles. And so we're not looking for one homogenous answer necessarily. So.
Yeah, because how do you follow that? No, for me, it was just, I think that when we talk about admiring Jesus and then becoming a follower of Jesus, that is so true in my life, because it was so, it was not a consistent go to church every Sunday as a kid. It was you hear a little here and you hear a little there, and you continue to grow in your knowledge of Jesus, and then for me it was just, the more I learned about him, the more I loved. And one thing that was missing in my life was just someone that I knew I could trust 100% every day for the rest of my life, and Jesus is that. And that's, I was baptized last year, and it was just such a turning point where it's like, I have this one person in my life forever that I know I will never give up on me and will never leave me, and that is just so comforting to have in my life, and that is really why I follow Jesus.
You have nothing to be ashamed about with how you followed that. That was some solid stuff. Zach?
For me, it's kind of like Janelle. I can just feel his love. Jesus just loves me, and that's basically it. It's like that song that we just sang. His Spirit is within us. And it's hard for me to ignore that. I don't know. You can call it whatever you want, but I feel like it's the Creator. It's him. So. Just his love is kind of always just grabbing at me and redirecting me possibly. So,
were you raised in the church?
Yeah, yep, for sure.
So how is your experience of Jesus today different than the experience you had growing up?
I think it's different now, just with my with my kids, with my family, kind of experiencing that. So kind of a trip, It's just fun listening to them, what they talk about, and just seeing the blessing that they are, and really relying on Christ, to help me through some hard times when they're driving me crazy, or
wait, that happens?
It does sometimes, or he just blesses, his blessings. It's things don't just fall out of the sky, and it's I have a great job, and healthy kids, fantastic wife, and it's just God's love.
What are the hard things that Jesus has had to help you guys through? Like, whether it's an intellectual crisis of faith or a circumstantial difficulty, how have you guys seen him showing up in that? Unscripted, I'm sorry, that's a big spot I just put you on. But can you think of anything, Rob?
Yeah, the hard thing for me personally was experiences in my past where I'd cried out to God to help, and I felt as though he wasn't there. I know now he was there. He was there helping me get through these times. But at the time, it caused me a lot of angst and a lot of anger about why he wasn't there when I cried out to him. When it
was that circumstantial or intellectual?
I think it was circumstantial.
Yeah.
So going through those times and realizing that I'm just a child. And as a child, my grandkids want ice cream every meal. Sometimes the answer is no, and sometimes the answer is wait. And just developing that sort of childlike trust in God and realizing he's God and I ain't him, and understanding more and more what that means, then when the answer is no, then I know it's because he loves me that the answer is no.
Wow. Yeah. Anything come to mind for you guys? No pressure there. But.
Circumstances. Like, it feels like every time there's just such a difference in directions that my life can go, it's like, okay, so I don't have anyone that's telling me what to do, or I have to pray about it, and then, the answer doesn't just come to you. You have to just kind of let it simmer a little bit and really just pay attention, because God is not going to just say, you need to go to California and go to law school. You need to do this or that. You just have to see what other kind of things are happening in your life. And I guess for me, it's like you just have to see what's going on in your life and know that you can attribute that to Jesus. There's so many things in my life that I cannot attribute to anything but Jesus working in my life. Like, there's just too many variables to be able to attribute to anything else, So I don't think it was a crisis of intellect or circumstance. It was just sitting and listening is really important.
Yeah. I guess I would say there's been times where I've definitely have drifted. Like I said, I was raised in a church, and it was fantastic. Pastor was, my best friend, and we knew him, and I loved youth group, and got out of high school, just traveled quite a bit, and kind of just did some silly, youthful things. And none of that was really necessarily bad, I don't think, but it wasn't really great. Wasn't like getting me kind of connected. So I took a trip to Africa and experienced a lot down there. Kind of just like their relationship with Christ was just so much more real. It seemed like to me, and I really respected. Like, I still have friends down there that their faith was just glowing. And but I don't know. I think I've definitely been in some kind of heinous situations, and it always seems like God's just kind of there, just with something to catch me. But nothing really big, like it really jumps out. But yeah.
When do you guys feel best connected to Jesus? Like what are the predictable, semi-controllable things that you can turn to? Like, other than the sermon. What are the things? What are the moments that give you your strongest sense of confident connection with Jesus? Music.
Absolutely. I just think that. It's
like
not
in
just
what context?
Just for me, there are certain songs that you can connect with the lyrics to that, words like cornerstone, or just things that are appearing in these lyrics that I can really connect with, and just being. And it's so hard to explain. It's just when I'm in the middle of a worship set, if it's up here or if it's participating in the congregation, it's just the music is just such a good way for me to connect.
And so awesome to hear that's therefore you're leading us up here is a genuine thing. I have a friend who I've been getting to know who said, normally I don't like contemporary Christian worship music. It's always seemed a little contrived, but I get the sense from your crew that it's just not. So that's compliments to you guys. So, yeah.
That's 100% accurate. It's almost every other week I tell Karen, my wife, that when she sees people in the band expressing their faith or being demonstrative in any way, that it is so powerful to me, because I know from knowing these brothers and sisters how real that is. And you're right. The guy, his observations are correct. There's a lot of contrived stuff going on out there, but not with these brothers and sisters. There's not. It just isn't. It is so real, and it is so powerful.
So when is that? Is music the connection point for you as well? Like, what would you say is the?
Oh, I'd say that's the predominant. Yeah, that's the predominant one. The music with one another, and that's music by yourself is cool and has its own place. But it's the one another aspect of the music that we do together. And Kate does such a masterful job of helping us step back and reminding us of what we're singing and the power of the lyrics and how thematically it flows, that it's so easy to get caught up in it because of Kate's leadership and the spirits of the other sisters and brothers that are up here. So yeah.
I got a sense of what you're going to say, but I'm dying to hear you talk about this.
Yeah, when I was at Disneyland, really, that's kind of the spot for me.
You seem like a Disneyland kind of guy.
Big.
Or Costco.
Yeah. Music is huge for me, for sure. I mean, definitely is such a privilege to get to play, and then also just to stand out there and just sing. It's I love it. I totally feel like nothing really else is going on. So music's big. Definitely climbing, but more so the creative aspect of it. So I kind of feel like when I'm climbing, it's a really great time for me to be creative, but also just doing art at the house or just even in my job, when I do get that one special job where I get to be creative and put light fixtures up, for the church, and kind of just have like this canvas just to just create. I feel like that's definitely when I'm happiest and closest and not really like thinking about other things. And I kind of feel like that's what Christ wants us to do, is create. I think He's the creator. So to be more godly, to be more creative. So I don't know. Yeah, I just kind of stumbled around in the woods on Friday for a couple hours just looking at rocks. Like that was a fantastic time, fantastic connection. So.
And knowing Zach, that, relationally, you're one of the most genuine people I've ever known, and seeing you in the community, like, I feel like no matter what part of town I go, I'm going to see Zach and wave. So just how relationally genuine you are, sincere, and therefore diverse your relational sphere is. I'm curious, like, when people who come at life from a 180-degree opposite spot as you, like, how do you articulate why Jesus even, like, so when the rubber meets the road, why does it matter? Like, beyond Sunday morning, how does it, someone puts you in a corner, like, why does it matter, Zach? How are you handling that?
It's really challenging, actually. I'm kind of stuck with that right now, and just, I have a friend that asks super hard questions, and actually questions that I can relate to. Like the time I talked about after high school, kind of seeing what all that was about, and that kind of lifestyle. But I don't know. I just constantly just try to. I don't know, like this series has been pretty awesome for me too, because we just don't know everything about Christ, and that's what I kind of keep on going back to. I'm like, yeah, that's great. You can say all that, but we don't know enough to like just put it in a box and sign it up. So yeah, it's a struggle because I just I'd also don't want to be like the guy that's like, you're going to hell.
Sure, right.
Definitely not. So I just kind of want to be open and listen and kind of realize that maybe that's what starts good things, is these hard conversations and being vulnerable a bit.
So Rob, you alluded to the idea that music is the primary. What are the secondaries?
Well, and I want to be careful how I say this, because it's this is what I aspire to, not what I do with any kind of sufficient regularity, and that's acts of compassion. And those are the times that you take these most fundamental cliche verses, it's more blessed to give than receive. And then I think, well, there's a reason they're cliche, and that's because there's so much truth laden in that we hear it so much, and then we sort of become numb to it. But really, those times when we can reach out to one another with compassion, because it reminded me of Exodus verse you were using in your series about the very first attribute of God in that list was a God of compassion. I once did a study of the emotional makeup of Jesus as what motivated him, and the number one attribute of Jesus throughout the whole Gospels, the number one emotion expressed or attributed to Jesus is compassion. So and again, I want to be clear, this is not something that I just go around doing acts of compassion constantly, but on those occasions that I get it right, those are the times where I think God is the most real.
Interesting, yeah. Part of what stood out to me in this process is, and I've tried to come at this from different angles in the past, and every time we've started a project on this level, I've had to cut it, because this one gets weird. So let me just kind of frame this before we dive into this. Many of the conversations that I'm having with people over coffee and lunch and just in passing, whatever, it often comes back to the value of being regular. And by that, I'm not talking about your bowels. I'm talking about Sunday mornings, that there's just something that happens for people when they make a decision to be a part of this regularly. And the tricky thing is, we've of course started a church on the grounds like, listen, we're not going to shame you, and that's not my intention whatsoever. That's why it's so hard to speak to. Is on the one hand, there's this tremendous benefit that I see. On the other hand, if I'm being honest, I've been paid to be here on Sundays since I was 20 years old, so I don't really have any credibility on that level. And then there's this other thing of like, if we're not careful, we create this culture of shame. Coincidentally, as we kind of got the 9 names together, and part of the difficulty here is the last thing I ever want to do is create a who's list. That's why we went let's grab people from teams. But as I looked over the list, I was like, wait a minute, every one of the people on this list are people who are pushing against the culture of once a month is the new every week, that are here more often than not. And what I tell my friends from Billings, they'll ask about Helena. I'll go, Helena's fantastic. How's church? It's awesome. Part of what you need to understand about Helena is Sunday is 50% of the reason why people live in Helena. To which they say, well, what's the other 50? And I said, Saturday. So we've got this culturally difficult thing because we're in a recreational mecca. Having kind of said all that, the question I want to ask you guys is, without forcing any kind of answer, is in your own life, in your family's life, why are you? And I don't know, every week is a little bit overspoken, but for the sake of that, why are you here the vast majority of the time? What's been the value of that for you and your family?
We're supposed to say the sermons, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the sermons are, I don't know, but other than that.
Other than.
Because there is a podcast.
Oh, that's right.
I just mean, how have you seen it translate? What's been the benefit of that?
Oh, I think it's a really simple thing for me. It's encouragement. Again, I'm big on looking at the number one reason for this or that, and I think one of the primary reasons for the existence of the church is encouragement, and it's a two-way street. You go to, when the Hebrew writer talks about not forsaking the assembling of yourselves that people get hit over the head with, it's, what are you doing? Taking a vacation from God? No. The rest of the verse talks about it in terms of, but encourage one another. And this place is that source, incredible source of encouragement. And it's that simple for me.
Just adding on to that, it's also for me, it is a place where I can kind of set a reset button for my week and come here and kind of unpack and just let everything that's been bothering me for the week just kind of go away, because I have amazing people that I surround myself with here, going back to what Rob was saying, and just the chance to listen to God's word and listen to what Adam's message is, and the going back to lyrics of the worship set, it's just somewhere that I can be every Sunday, where it's kind of a peaceful way to just kind of reset my week and give myself, be encouraged by all of this for the next week, to be able to take whatever is going to be given to me and be able to handle that. And I think that it's super important, like you're saying, to just surround yourself with people who are fellow brothers and sisters, like you're saying, and just really have the opportunity to just take a deep breath, So that's where I'm at.
We just like it here, a lot. I don't know, 4 years, 5 years, T. We've been coming to church here, and we came, loved it. I remember the first time I was like, why? I don't forget what kind of like the preview song was. But I was like, why are they playing that song? What is going on? Then kind of stuck around and started to figure it out, and got connected with Kate and the band, and seeing my kids love it, downstairs, and they're not like, oh, I don't want to go. We want to go. It's kind of big for Tiff and I to sit down and eat a dinner together every night, and so showing the girls like Sunday, this is a part of what we do. It just I think the reset, and it's also just it's just great friends, and nothing's more fun than walking around downtown and all of a sudden like somebody's like, hey, you go to Narrate, and you're like, yeah. It's just cool. It's just it's a big community, and to be a part of it is awesome. I believe in it. So we just like it.
All of you guys represent this. Like you point out, like you've been here for 4 or 5 years. None of you were here day one. All of you moved from coming once to being deeply integrated and vested relationally. Is there a single thing you can point to that, how do you, because I feel like that we spend our entire growing up years, until we graduate college, where we're constantly in these homogenous environments where we're surrounded by people that we share interests with, and then we graduate from that and we become adults, and suddenly finding friends gets very difficult, and that the process of church takes longer than we might often want it to take. What advice would you, how was that process for you? How long were you a part of this before you felt like you were connected? Not just, relationally. I'm straying a little bit from the conversation, but I'm just curious.
Well, I started playing music pretty much within a couple of months of when I first started showing up. I got here about the same time Kate did in 2013. Right. And
you came up from up on the hill, not Sydney.
Yes. Yeah. And I remember the first couple of rehearsals. A couple of the sisters were trying really hard to be really helpful and saying, the acoustic guitar guy usually sits up here, and then one of them caught themselves and said, we're sorry we're being so bossy here. And I said, it's cool. I'm used to working with uppity women. And they just kind of looked at each other and then looked back at me and said, we're going to get along really well. And it was one of those moments, and from that point on, it just seemed like I was just drawn into the relationships. And it was a little bit weird for me because of the makeup of the band changing all the time. Right. And you never know.
And now you're very grateful that's the case.
Pardon?
I'm just kidding. Lest it be every weekend.
Yeah, and so that took a little longer, and then I don't get to hang out with our other acoustic guitarists as much because usually if Zach's up, I'm not, that kind of thing, which is a drag. But otherwise, otherwise, the idea of getting what that does is gives you a broader base of people that you are making these connections with, and it doesn't happen overnight, like any relationship. Yeah. But having that united purpose of being on a team, whether it's music or ushers or making coffee or whatever, it's that idea of having that regularity, that consistency of face time with people, that then it's the same people. Then you start figuring out more about each other's kids and what's important to them, and how to pray for them and how they can pray for you. And it's very organic, and it's exactly as it's supposed to be.
So one word. Sorry, did you guys want to jump in?
Well,
go ahead.
It was just, people here are really cool. It's awesome. And scattering was really the big thing for me. It's like, okay, well, I know how to do this. I'm just going to go sign up. And I
So you were here for a while before you started singing.
What's that?
How long were you here before you started singing?
Maybe 6 months, 7
Okay.
months.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just, I mean, I don't remember what the first scattering event was. I think, I don't remember, but I just remembered, and then I met Lisa, and I'm like, oh, she's really cool. I like her, and then going and doing different things with different people, you just, like you said, you just find these amazing people, and you want to learn more about them, and I think that was a big thing for me.
Yep.
You guys were here for a while before you jumped on the band, weren't you?
I think so. Yeah. I don't necessarily remember how long, but I do remember the tryout session with Kate, which was like terrifying.
Stressful.
It was like not really, but it was.
She judged you by your guitar.
Yeah, which has holes in it, but more than one. Yeah, I mean, as soon as I kind of connected with the music, it just seemed like pretty simple. And then also, like I said, when the girls found their church to be super fun, and it was just, it was great.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. I certainly didn't, thanks for the kind words there. Certainly didn't mean this to be this brag on Narrate thing so much as where your faith comes from. So thank you for your candidness and all that. So one word, you don't get to explain why, but one word that, the one word that for you best describes why the connection to Jesus matters, and then creates later conversation and later context as to why you picked that word. Rob?
One word. You're talking to a lawyer. Life. I was going to say
You
business.
took mine. I'm just kidding.
What's the question?
Just, like if you get a single word to describe why your faith matters, or why it's genuine, or one word to describe the connection, what's the word?
Love.
And trust.
What?
And trust.
Interest.
No, trust.
Oh, trust.
Yeah.
Okay. Thought you were a banker. My primary motive here, you guys, was to demonstrate that it's okay to be a part of a faith community and not be the exact same person as everybody else. I think one of the real dangers is we think that everybody else has it together and we all have the same answers to the same questions. And I think orthodoxy is very important. I think it's important that we recognize we stand on the shoulders of men and women who have stood on the shoulders of men and women going all the way back. I also think it's important to be genuine with the reality that we arrive at these places for different reasons. So if nothing else, I hope it makes it safe for you in that regard. And I think also uniquely this gathering, that if you're someone that's sick of being a stranger, I think there's a good example as to how you cease to be a stranger. And yet please also know that we very intentionally have created a community where it's also safe to hide, where you can be the last one in the door and the first one out in many cases for years before you stick a hand up. So let me pray and we'll call it a morning. Lord, thank you. Thanks that your Spirit is alive and well, though often intangible, or at least not able to be bottled and captured. Thanks, Lord, for the many lives that have poured into these three. And thanks, God, for your love for us. We love you and trust you, and would ask for your help getting better and better at that. Amen.
If you would like to engage further with Narrate Church, you can find contact information online, www.narratechurch.org. We would love to hear from you.